Alright, so in this video, I'm going to show you how I created this realistic CRT and analog signal effect entirely inside After Effects without any plugins. We're going to build this effect from scratch using RGB separation, scanlines, lens distortion, glow, and a few small details that really help sell the realism. So first, I'm bringing my footage into a new composition. One thing I'd recommend before even starting is using footage with strong contrast and lighting. CRT effects usually look best when there's bright highlights and darker shadows to work with. First, I'm creating an adjustment layer for the screen texture and pixel structure. I'm using the mosaic effect to slightly break up the image, setting the value to 350 for both the horizontal and vertical blocks. I also like adding a subtle Gaussian blur here because perfectly sharp CRT effects actually feel less believable. Next, I'm going to edit the composition settings by changing the aspect ratio to 720 by 480 pixels and the frame rate to 20. After quickly readjusting the scale of the footage, I'm adding a grid effect to create the scan lines and pixel separation. I'm setting the size mode to width and height sliders, changing the blending mode to hard light, and setting the grid color to black, so it blends naturally into the footage. For the actual line spacing, I'm using a width value of 2 and a height value of 4 to get those tighter horizontal scan lines, then lowering the border size down to 1 so the effect stays subtle and doesn't overpower the image. After that, I'm using CC lens to curve the image slightly and create that rounded screen feel. This is one of those small details that subconsciously makes the effect feel way more authentic. Adjust the size to 334 and the convergence to -200. Then I'm adding a curves effect to give it a slight contrast boost. I'm also adding a vignette to darken the corners a bit and help focus the image toward the center of the frame. Then I'm stacking a few glow effects to create phosphor bloom around the brighter parts of the image. This is honestly one of my favorite parts of the effect because it gives everything that dreamy analog softness instead of just looking like a filter slapped on top. First, set the glow threshold to 46.3 and the glow intensity to 0.3. Next, duplicate that effect twice and set the second threshold to 45.5 and the glow radius to 52, keeping the intensity the same. On the third glow effect, lower the threshold to 36.5, increase the radius to 221 and the intensity to 0.6. To fix the edge distortion, I'm adding another adjustment layer with a transform effect to just scale everything back into frame. On another adjustment layer, I'll add the exposure effect and Alt or Option click the stopwatch to input this expression. That will give the footage this realistic flicker effect. Next, apply the wave warp effect and change the height and width to 2. You barely want the movement to be noticeable. A lot of people overdo this part, but real CRT distortion was usually subtle unless the signal was completely breaking. Now I'm duplicating the footage 3 times and renaming the layers red, green, and blue. This step is optional, but I think it helps the CRT look really come together. For each layer, I'm isolating a single color channel using shift channels, then slightly offsetting each layer by a few pixels. You don't want to push this too far or it starts looking fake really fast. Small imperfections usually look way more realistic. For a final touch, I'm layering in this lens texture overlay to add some surface imperfections and extra bloom, copying the CC lens effect from earlier and pasting it onto this layer. Then, after turning the opacity down to around 10 to 15% and adding a final Gaussian blur of about 3 pixels, this is the finished product. Overall, this effect is actually pretty simple once you break it down layer by layer, but combining all these little imperfections together is what creates that authentic analog look. If you want, I can also make a part 2 where I go deeper into things like rolling signal distortion, VHS damage, or more cinematic CRT effects. But yeah, hopefully this helped, and I'll see you in the next archive.